Nicole Bonner with Thrive Chiropractic Coaching, and I am here with my good friend Dan McCoy. I almost said Dr. Dan, but you're not a chiropractor, are you?
I'm not. Sometimes they call me the technology doctor, but I'm not a chiropractor. No,
But you are a huge chiropractic advocate.
I am. Yeah, very much so.
Awesome. So, Dan, the first thing that I'm dying to know is why is a guy who is not a chiropractor so invested in helping this profession? What's your chiropractic story?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it goes back probably way, probably 10, 11 years here into the 2009 timeframe. I thought chiropractic was about neck and back pain. And because, that's what you see, you hear on the news and things like that, because we all know the news is trustworthy. Um, but I am a huge believer in relationship capital, and that, who you know and who you connect with and who you desire, keyword here, to pour into, to create value into their lives, gives you the ability, if you focus on other people and get them what they want and they need, you'll never go hungry a day in your life. That's my adaptation of a Zig Ziglar quote. And it's all about relationship capital. So I was, working with a coach, a very well-known coach in the space, in the financial world. And he was, he was just starting to work with chiropractors, and he had a lot of relationships with chiropractors, which meant I was around these folks. And interestingly, they poured into me when I talked about how my son was dealing with some ADHD issues, when I was talking about some other family members that were having some issues with depression, anxiety. They helped me understand that chiropractic wasn't just about neck and back pain, that it was about full function and above, down, inside out, and how the brain communicates effectively through the nervous system to the entire body. And how when you get interference in that you simply don't have the body functioning at its highest level. Now, as an entrepreneur, I know that I need to function at a higher level, and the highest level that I possibly can. A good friend of mine, Garrett Gunderson, used to say, if you were given the ability to get insurance, how much would you get? And the answer is as much as they'll give me, because right. Like, what is human life? What is human value worth? We're producers. We want to help people. So why do we want to limit our capacity on try to put a dollar figure on it? It's a very broken mentality. So that having been said, I had a lot of relationships around chiropractors who poured into me and helped me understand chiropractic at a different level. Got on the phone with me and my wife for an hour and talked to us, not making a dime, because this chiropractor was in Chicago, and she just poured into us. And so nice. I ran a technology company that helped businesses use technology to become more protected, productive, and profitable. And so I said, I've got all these relationships with chiropractors, and there really wasn't, after doing some research, anybody focusing on helping chiropractors do what they do best. And interestingly enough, my model of doing business, like, we don't do what we call break fix. Your stuff breaks, you pay us by the hour to fix it. Right. There's two reasons. One, because it's not good for the business owner, because I make money when you're down and you make money when you're up. So if a chiropractor talks about function and being proactive with your health and doing things to help the body perform at a higher level or just function at its highest level, then why would you wait until you're broken to have your technology be down, which means you may see less people that day? And if your why is to see more people and help more people, it's just incongruent. Right. So we already had this model. So I was like, why not help docs? So that's a shortened version of that.
That's awesome. Now, you had mentioned, if you don't mind sharing, you had mentioned how chiropractic has helped you and we were talking before we started this video, and you had mentioned how chiropractic directly has helped you and your family. Would you mind sharing that experience with us? There's a lot of, probably the people that are watching a video like this are either in chiropractic school or they're newer docs and they haven't quite seen the miracles of chiropractic yet. So would you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know a lot of docs, and I've asked them, have gone to chiropractic school because they have Chris Sano's a good friend, and he was impacted. He had ulcerative colitis. He's told that story 100 times. That and he was chiropractic shifted that for him. So there's a lot of people that I know that have gone because either themselves have been experienced it or a relative, a loved one, they've experienced a chiropractic. So I think there's a lot of power in that reality. I have both. I can tell you today, and this is fast forward 10, 15 years later, but my primary care physician is my chiropractor. Do I believe that chiropractic is the cure to everything? No, because chiropractic doesn't cure anything. All it does is it removes the interference so that our body can function at its highest level and do what it's designed to do by God, heal. So in my family, I get adjusted every other Tuesday. It's a standing appointment, 2:15 p.m. And why? Because I am an entrepreneur and I want to function at the highest level. But I have a really cool story. And that was an employee who I hired a little over 3 years ago. And she was on pain medications. Basically she was at the end of a rope. They could do nothing but manage it. She was in an auto accident 5 years earlier. And during that time, she had some surgery. I think she had some metal in her neck inserted as a result of that, and fusions and things like that. And she had a medical marijuana license. She was on all kinds of painkillers, and they were just basically doing nothing. They said there's nothing more that they can do for her other than to manage this. And so I was like, have you tried chiropractic? And she goes, well, I've been to a chiropractor in the past, but they won't touch me because. So being a relator and having lots of relationships in the chiropractic world, I got her to a full spine Gonstead doc. And of course, he takes x-rays and goes through the entire protocol. And fast forward 9 months later, she's completely pain-free, off of all medications, fired her pain medication doctor, her pain doc, because she didn't need them anymore.
Right.
And might I add, and this is a key piece for every one of you as you become business owners, pour into your people, invest into them. Don't look at your employees as an expense, because they're an investment into helping you function at a higher level in your business and help more people. Yes. So I looked at her as that way. I poured in, I paid for her chiropractic care. And she today performs at a higher level because she's not in pain.
Yeah.
So to me, that's an investment. It's an investment.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story all the way around because it's such a win-win-win. It's unbelievable. And the fascinating thing is, Dan, we see this happen every single day in chiropractic practices all over the world. And yet not that many people know about it.
Now, I just think it's easy. There's a lot of gurus out there who just say, well, I don't need to advertise or market, chiropractic sells itself. Listen, guys, we're in a world where people need to communicate. And if you have a powerful story, like if you've been to an amazing restaurant, would you tell your friends and your family about this amazing restaurant and the experience you had? Would you have left a 5-star review? Yeah, of course. So exactly. Why can't I'll tell you what I think the problem is. I believe the problem is that people just aren't confident. They've either gone to a school that hasn't told stories like that, or they haven't experienced it for themselves, or maybe they just don't believe it themselves in the power. But at the end of the day, like when you've experienced it and you've observed it and you've seen what it does, why wouldn't you amplify that, right? Why wouldn't you hire somebody to help you tell that story? Why wouldn't you hire a coach who can help you clear out your mental subluxations, your thought subluxations that, well, if you believe in the 3 T's, then they affect more than just your ability to do things in business. So anyway.
Yeah, I got to highlight this, Dan, because what you just dropped was gold. And I want to make sure people just don't like brush over what you just said. But when marketing and PR, anything from your spinal screenings to your outside talks to your digital marketing to your reviews, whatever it may be, when that becomes an act of service instead of an act of just getting new patients, and your purpose is bigger than yourself, then all of those things now become an act of service. It becomes an act of kindness to the world or to humanity. Yeah. And so like, I've been in practice for 23 years. We have a pretty high volume practice. And, I'm one of those people. It's like, we don't need to do events, but we still do them. And we do them not because we need new patients, but we do them because exactly for what you said, building relationships in our community and sharing the word of chiropractic, because we're still at a place in history right now where, the general population, the general public is not seeing on the radio or the TV what we're doing. And this is the way to do it.
Yep. I do believe we're seeing more of a shift with all of the craziness that's happened over the past 3 years towards alternative and holistic approaches. So I think we're creeping up into the 12, 13, 14, 15% of the population seeing chiropractic. But the bigger challenge too is, just like any other business, there's 70,000 chiros in the US, and a good percentage of them are great, but a good percentage of them don't actually practice chiropractic, and that's a whole nother day's conversation. But at the end of the day, if you have something that's powerful, and you said something that's really key too that I want to reverse highlight here, and that is need, right? Need is an inward look. When you are looking inside of yourself, right? This is the same reason people don't stand on stages and speak across America today. They don't let their voice be heard. They say, well, what if someone looks at me? What if I can't remember what I was going to say? Or what if I don't have, I don't remember, or I stutter, or anything that you can get inside your own head and hold you back from what you're great at or could be great at. And same thing with sales or anything else. Like anytime you're looking at yourself, if you walk into a sales conversation, did you ever read the book Never Split the Difference by any chance, by Chris Voss?
No, I've never read that. No.
So great book on negotiations and concepts. Well, one of the guys that Chris was a FBI hostage negotiator, and he worked with he references in there a guy by the name of Jim Camp, who actually taught the hostage negotiations team at the FBI. I coached with Jim. And one of the things that he talks about is, when you go into a negotiation, is three key things. One, it has to have a valid mission and purpose, and that valid mission and purpose has to be set in your adversary's world. And he defines your adversary as your respected opponent.
Okay.
And first we probably need to define what a negotiation is, right? We negotiate all the time. If you have kids, you negotiate when they're going to bed. You negotiate where you're going to go to lunch, to dinner with your spouse. There's lots of different things that we negotiate at. But in this case, your valid mission and purpose has to be set in their world, not in your world. So it can't be, I'm going into this, I need this sale because I need more money. Now you're in your world.
Right.
That's not okay. So it has to be set in their world. My goal is to discover what they need to help them feel or paint a picture for what their life could be like, right? And then we go into that. And he says it has to be set in their world. Second, you have to blank slate. You cannot go in there expecting anything other than to serve your valid mission and purpose. Now, if we do that, then we're in their world, and which is what you just said. We're in their world. We're there to help them. And guess what's going to happen when you seek out to help people? Your business is going to grow.
Yeah, you're going to attract people.
Yeah. So money is a byproduct of value creation. So we have to give before we receive. So people go in the wrong. And granted, this is a lot easier to do and to talk about when you have some cash sitting in the bank. You might have to get a little bit scrappy or a little more sweat equity involved if you don't, or you're just starting out. But at the end of the day, it's all about helping others.
Yeah. I love that one liner that you just said. Do you remember? Can you just say it again?
What about
Money is a
money is the
byproduct
byproduct of value creation.
of value creation. Guys,
Yeah.
write that down. Write it down. Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down. Write it down.
And
So Dan, you have a gift in technology that you speaking of this actually this walks us right into this next conversation, because really what I intended our meeting today to be really about what it is that you do and how you serve the chiropractic community, and you have a gift in technology. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do? Actually, you know what? Can I share a story with you, Dan? Because I think
please.
you would find this story super fascinating. One day, about, I don't know, 13 years ago, I walked into my office in the morning, and we had about 9 computers throughout the office. And on the screen of all 9 computers, there was a screensaver that just said, ransom $300. Dan, we got locked out of everything. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the area that you specialize in.
It is.
So now, with that being said, I am like sweating right now in my sweater because I'm reliving the day that happened, which was one of the worst days that I've ever had in practice. Now tell us a little bit about what you do and where your talents lie.
Yeah. So if I was just to give you a one-liner, I'd say we're a cybersecurity and IT company for chiropractors. But there's lots of people who say they do those things. But let's talk about how the power of who I am and what I believe makes that extra special. Because what I want you to walk away from this conversation, this brief conversation with, is one, understanding the importance of paying attention to this up front, not being reactive, as we talked about before, but being proactive with it. You know, lots of people say they're proactive. And there's a lot of people that do what we do who are called managed service providers or MSPs out there who will provide you a service similar to this. But here's what they miss. They miss the understanding of the business aspects in a chiropractic practice. See, what I've gained over the last 13 years is the ability to understand that there is literally nothing in your chiropractic practice from a technology standpoint, or really even outside of that, that we either don't do or have a relationship with somebody that they do. So, you know, you need an x-ray system. I have a guy for that. You need, you want to hire a coach who can help you train your associate. Well, I now have that. Yes. So I'm just saying, like, it's building relationships and the ability to approach, here's the key piece, approach technology from a business perspective. See, people go, I'll see questions like this. I don't like insert name of EHR. I don't like that EHR. And I want to move to a new one. What's everybody using? And I see these questions out in the Facebook groups all the time. And then
I had one of those questions.
They get 50 names.
Yeah, it was crazy.
They get 50 names. I think that may have been how we actually connected. They get 50 names.
Possibly.
And I'm like, okay, great. Now, are you less confused or more confused than you were before? Because here's the reality, right? When you aren't educated in a certain area, what is the one way, and probably the only place, that you have the ability to make a decision? If you don't know anything about if you don't know anything about the EHR, or EHR is probably a bad example. Here's a perfect example. If you don't know anything about IT or how to buy IT services, and you go get 3 quotes, if you don't know anything about servers and you're going to put a new server in and you go get 3 quotes, and you're not educated on how to make a decision, what are you going to make your decision on?
Most people are going to make their decision on what's the least expensive.
Price.
Yeah.
Price is what you're going to make a decision on. And price is always a consideration, but here's the key distinction that people have to understand. There's a difference between price and cost. Example, we have a client. Been a client since 2015. They came to us because they had their previous keyword IT guy who took their patient data offsite, 8,000 patient records on an unencrypted hard drive, and lost it.
Oh my God.
Now, if you know anything about HIPAA and you know anything about the requirements for a theft or loss of patient data, you might also understand that that could be a pretty painful expense. Now, interestingly enough, that client and I, a year later, we're doing a business review because every quarter we sit down with our businesses and understand where they're at, our clients, our chiropractors, and we understand where they're going, and we help them see if there's any adjustments that need to be made to their technology, or there's any new technology that needs to be put in place, or just maybe a general business conversation, because I've got a lot of experience buying and building businesses. So
that's awesome.
We can have that conversation, right? But we were sitting down having a conversation, and we were looking back over the past year. He was seeing about 420 patient visits a week. And he noticed during the month of March to May, there was a $200,000 dip from the previous year. So he was trending like this, and his revenue went down. And so we start diving into why that might have been. And after a little bit of time, we looked back and realized it was during that period when he was going through that potential data loss and the fines that would have potentially come with that, and what that impact might have been, or just sorting that whole process out, that his business revenue went down.
Okay.
Why? Because he's now spending time worrying about that instead of focusing on patients. And I'm going to tell you, from an energetic standpoint, people can feel that. They see that. And you will see less patients. Your staff is discoordinated, is uncoordinated. Things happen when your thoughts are subluxated. It impacts your body physically, and it impacts your ability to function at your highest level.
For sure.
If you understand that, and you talk about being proactive with your patients, then are you incongruent with your own philosophy if you don't take on and partner with somebody who can help you function at the highest level from a technology standpoint and avoid those types of risks? Because the things that you're talking about are avoidable.
Right.
They're not preventable, but they're avoidable. And I say that the difference between this, if any IT guy ever comes in and tells you, I can absolutely keep viruses out of your computer, you should run real fast the opposite direction, because the reality is, and if I had more time, I would show you the statistics, because I'm a little bit of a data nerd, but there's a website out there that shows real time what's happening from a like how many new viruses are found in the wild, out in the world, every single day. And I will tell you right now, that number sits at right around 180 to 190,000 new viruses every single day. Now,
oh my gosh,
if you understand those statistics, then you understand that year over year, it has been a linear increase every single year. And you see new things like AI technology coming out, and what that's going to bring potentially to a threat landscape from your practice standpoint. We won't talk about that right now, but that's another day's conversation. We could talk about a lot of different aspects of that. If you understand that, then you understand that you have to wait, because hope is not a strategy. You have to do something now. You can't wait. So if you get all of that, then there are things that you can do. Since we're here, let me give you a couple of tips.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm on the edge of my seat.
One, you got to understand, where are your risk points? Okay. And this is how we approach risk. My background is electrical engineering. I was an aircraft cockpit avionics designer for 15 years for a large aerospace company. And one of the things that I was responsible for was making sure that one of the key systems in the aircraft that takes in all the engine signals and puts them up on the screens was redundant. And I worked with the military a lot. And if you look at the military, you know, a soldier has battle dress uniform, or BDUs we call it, battle dress uniform on, that is designed to prevent abrasions and cuts. And then on top of that, they may wear a flak jacket, a bulletproof vest. And then they're going to be in an armored vehicle. And that armored vehicle, there's going to be multiple of them. There's going to be a convoy. And then they may have forward air support that is going ahead of them to make sure that their path is clear. And that entire convoy or battalion you're looking at forms a bunch of layers to make sure the most vulnerable piece, the human, is protected. And so it's not a lot different in your chiropractic practice. You got to understand, where are the risk points? Where do risks come in? People bringing memory sticks in and plugging them in. That's a risk. Emails, one of your biggest risks. Your people, the human, is a huge risk. They can be your best defense. They can also be your own worst enemy when left untrained and I'll leave it at untrained, really. But so understanding where those risks are. First, we need to educate, right? So there needs to be some sort of education, whether it's annual. Annual's not enough, in my opinion, because think about it. You know, if you and I only talked once every 5 years, I'm probably not front of mind when you have a problem come up. But if we're talking once a week or once a month, it's much more likely that when you have a problem come up, you're going to think of me. So, right. And by the way, there's a lesson there for you as a chiropractor, or soon to be chiropractor, DC to be, right? That, you know, you need to be in front of people, however you do that, whether it's social media or otherwise.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing, is you got to have education. So there are programs, we provide them, but there are programs that you can use to drip. Like what we send out is a weekly video that's like 2 minutes long, that just is a simple tip that you can use in your personal life too, but it just keeps you front of mind, keeps the cybersecurity aspect of or things to be watching out for, or things to pay attention to, front of mind. So yeah. If you go ahead.
Well, no, Dan, I wanted to just touch on what you said for step number 1 in knowing your risk points. And guys, you know, Dan, you're absolutely right, because we traced, when we had that incident in our office, we traced that that hostage, I call it the hostage situation, because they literally held everything we had on our computers for hostage. We traced it back to an employee's email, and she got an email, clicked on something in her email, and that's what triggered the cascade of events in our computer system.
Yeah, and that was 13 years ago. And I promise you, I know I can show it to you empirically that the risk of that becoming a reality today is 20 times greater than what it was back then. And that's a number out of my backside, but the reality is it probably is significantly more than that.
Sure.
So that's an entry point, right? So first the human has to go, I know it looks like it's from somebody that I know, but I'm not expecting this. Maybe I shouldn't click on it. And there's technology, by the way, that we put in place for our docs that we work with, but there's technology that can like go check those links and go pre-click on them and to see if they're a risk. And if it is, to yank it out of your inbox before you get to it. So, you know,
wow, I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. Email. Now email is another big one. You brought it up. So, key piece. Why are chiropractors still using Hotmail, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL as their primary email? Well, there's lots of reasons. It could be ignorance, lack of education. I mean, it could be any particular reason. Why not have every touch point when you connect with a patient or a potential patient or a joint venture or somebody who you're going to have a relationship with or might? Why not have every touch point put your brand in front of their face? It's cheap. It's easy to go sign up with Google Suite. Google Workspace now, or Office 365. We prefer Office 365, but either one of those, when set up properly, can be used in a HIPAA compliant manner. But that why not put that brand in front of your face, right? So one, by having that helps. Two, don't put your emails on your websites, since we're talking about emails. Like, have a form if you want people to fill it out. Cool.
Right.
Don't post your email on your website. That's just asking for people to spam you. Robots, don't do it. So email's another risk point, right? So that's just two of them, right? We could go on. I could teach this stuff for hours. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but there are two key pieces that you've got to pay attention to. If you want another one, I can, but that's up to you.
I do. I want the next one.
Wow. Okay. So, let's talk about passwords. You've heard it 100 times, like, make sure you have strong passwords.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. If you went out and you bought the most expensive lock and the most expensive alarm system, the most elaborate alarm system with sound and cameras and somebody watching it 24/7, and you did all of that and you spent all that money, but one day you were talking to your son out in a public place and you gave them the code to that alarm system and someone overheard that. And then as you walked out, you dropped your key to that really expensive lock. And that person, a thief, saw a crime of opportunity. And they went and they picked up that key and they know the code. What good is having all that expensive technology if you basically just gave the criminal the key and the code? And that's effectively what people do all the time by not doing very simple things. By one, having random passwords that are stored in a password manager, not the same password that you've used since you were 13 years old, all over the place. Two, don't reuse your passwords. Now, if you hear nothing else I say, hear this. The one password that you must have be different than every other password in the entire practice is your email password. Why? Well, think about it. If I'm going to go reset your password to your bank, to your EHR, to your insert any system, and I got access to your email, I probably can get in. Unless we add one more piece to the equation, and that is two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So anything and everything in your practice that can have multi-factor authentication in. So think you log in with a password, then it asks for a code from your app, right? Banks do it. Some send you texts. That's not great, but it's better than nothing. Because I even have an iPhone, I can get into that really easy if I have your iCloud password, which is the same as your email password, which is the same as the password that you put in on some third-party website that got compromised. Because everything's online today, and we have lots of passwords. So if I'm reusing it or I'm making it simple and just changing one letter at the end, these guys are not stupid. They can figure this stuff out. So make sure you have unique passwords. Ideally random passwords. If you ask me what my email password is, I could not tell you because it is saved in a password manager and it is random and it's 15, 16 characters long and it's got uppercase, lowercase numbers, it's got symbols, it's got all the above and it's random. And then I also have two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication on here. So if you can use like a Google Authenticator or an Authy, which are two major apps that you can use for that, both free, to set up multi-factor authentication on anything and everything that you can, that will go a long way to helping you prevent theft of your email. I mean, I've had clients, well, they're clients now, but I've had clients who had their email compromised where a hacker got into their email and they went and sent 1,300 emails out to all of your contacts from you. This is not a spoof. They're
Oh
in
my
your
gosh.
inbox. They're sending it from you. And it says, hey, I'm sending you this encrypted documents that you asked for. Click here and put your Office 365 credentials into unencrypted. When all they're doing is scooping up your Office 365, and it just snowballs from there.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're not stupid. They get in your inbox, they look at all the interactions, and they see you're a financial advisor, and they see that you're expecting some documents, one of your clients is expecting documents to be sent to them. So if they're expecting it and they get it and it's from me, what are they going to do? Unless they're educated, they're going to click on it and they're going to give their credentials to it. And this just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it is a distraction from your primary why.
Yeah.
So that's my 3 for today. There's a whole lot more, but that's my 3 for today that you can go into practice with in your mind. And by the way, you don't have to wait. Start now.
So Dan, so we are coming close to the end of our time together, because I know both of us have stuff we got to get done in like a minute, but there is way more to the stuff, guys, than I even anticipated. Dan is awesome. He is certainly, there's no question that you are an expert in your field. How would either students or new docs get in touch with you?
They could reach out to me several ways. One, I'm going to leave you with one thing. And I'm not sure whether you're going to drop it below or where you're going to put this link, but I'm going to give you a link here that will allow you to sign up for a weekly tech tip. All the types of things that I've given you, I've got that spread out for an entire year to help keep security front of mind, and it's free. So you can sign up for that. So I'll give you that link. In addition to that, you can reach out to me. My email is dan@techsubluxation.com. So hopefully you know how to spell subluxation. It's just TECH, techsubluxation, all one word.com. And, either of those will get to me. So if you have any further questions, I'd love to provide input.
Excellent. I appreciate it. And where are we getting that link? Because I want to share that link for you.
I will send it to you, and you can share it with your folks.
And I'll link it up.
There you go.
You got it. All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time. I know you have to get to another meeting, and so do I. And let's connect soon, man.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you later.
All right.